to Caribbean Connections, Caribbean Airlines Thought Leadership Series, where we sit and chat with leaders from across the region to get the inside scoop of how they have achieved success and to provide a platform so they can share their perspective on issues impacting the Caribbean and the world. I am Dionne Ligoure, the head of corporate communications at Caribbean Airlines, and I am delighted to host this series of conversations. For this episode, I am privileged to interview Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, the Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Director of both of its subsidiaries. She's our first guest from Jamaica, and it's a double delight because she's female, outstandingly decorated, and supremely respected. She's a mother, wife, community volunteer, and so much more. Dr. Street Forrest has a wealth of experience, having worked in senior positions both in Jamaica and overseas. She's well decorated, having been conferred with the honor of the Jamaica's Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander. She's received numerous other awards which have recognized her leadership, vision, integrity, and commitment to excellence. Dr. Street Forrest is an author, having penned the book entitled On Leadership, Discipline, Discretion, and Daring. We are thrilled to have her as our guest. Come join me as we chat with Dr. Marlene Street Forrest. Dr. Street Forrest, welcome to Caribbean Connections.
It is really a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with us, and we'll get right into it. You are very well known throughout the region for your proficiency in all matters relating to stocks, investment, shares, and bonds. And we know this is an area that has been traditionally dominated by males. Can you tell us how you got into this area of expertise?
Well, it's just that there was an advertisement for a position and I applied. I felt that I would be capable of doing the job, despite the fact that I'm a woman, because I do not see gender in anything that we do. I see hard work, understanding of the issues, and so I applied for the position, and here I am now.
Excellent. We have seen that under your stewardship, the Jamaican Stock Exchange has made significant strides, including the launch of the junior market. The stock exchange was also demutualized. So there are a number of things. Can you share some of the milestones of your career?
Oh, I started my life after university as an auditor. And this allowed me to have an understanding of, people, just an understanding through figures, through mathematics, through what they present. Then I went on again to be an auditor of the JPS. And again, that is delving into information. I think that's very critical. Next, I traveled to Caribbean Cement Company as a cost accountant. And that allowed you to look at details. On to another area of chief accountant, and you notice it's in accounting and audit, where it was with the multinationals. So you understand how others globally, regionally, and globally thought. And so this is the extent. And then on to Jamaica Observer as their financial controller and as an assistant general manager. Again, understanding communication, understanding startup organizations. So these are some of the things along the way. And it is said that when you move from company to company, a rolling stone gather no mass. But it's not true. What you do is assimilate and use from one experience to another and take those as guiding pillars in order to grow.
Excellent. And of course, I love that. It is not true. The Rolling Stone does not gather moss, it actually gathers experience and information along the way. You know, each career move or each step was a foundation that added to this wealth of knowledge and experience that you now have. You are a highly decorated citizen of Jamaica, having received the Order of Distinction of Jamaica in the rank of Commander. You have numerous awards behind your name. You have really guided the growth of the stock exchange, but you have another title as well. You are also an author, and you are a published author at that, having released your book on leadership, discipline, discretion, and daring. I love the title because it speaks to some qualities that can take us and guide us so well through life. Please share with us what motivated you to write this book.
I think it was important based on the various achievements, based on what I have done in this sector, to ensure that there is some understanding of how we achieved and what was put into these achievements. So I felt that it was important to just put them down. If you note, it is a collection of speeches, but speeches tell a story. Speeches allow you to reshape a world when persons read it. It chronologizes, give chronology to what has happened and how we can go from there. It tells of the team. It tells of the hardships. It tells of how you manage to overcome in many areas of the things you tried to do. I think it was important that that be set down in some form for posterity.
And we're very happy that you felt this way, because now there is a written record, a guide of sorts. And you're so right that speeches do in fact tell a story. As a well-established leader in the financial and stock exchange industry, as we call it, what advice can you give to up-and-coming entrepreneurs and individuals who are seeking to invest?
Let me start first by the entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are seeking capital to grow. So I'm going to dissect it from entrepreneurs to investors. It is important that as you have your initiatives, as you seek to grow your business, you know what your strategic plans are, but these should be written. The business itself, you should take some time in terms of the corporate governance. Understand what you want, understand a structure, so that persons looking on and looking into that business can determine whether they want to invest. And I'm saying that specifically from the standpoint that many of the failures of small and medium-sized businesses is the fact that capital restricts, or a lack of capital restricts growth. Now, nobody is going to invest in your business if they don't understand it, if they don't see some structure, some governance. So the recommendation is take time to ensure that governance is in place, that you keep your books and records in order, that you have a board of directors, that, so people can see a path to investing in your business. I always encourage that, yes, loan is good, but that silent capital that, is even more important in terms of equity capital. So that is, I take from what we see as the struggles of some of the small and medium-sized businesses to get capital, to say governance is important, underscored, good corporate governance. Now, for the investors, we have seen the growth of the junior market, companies coming to market. We have seen them getting themselves organized, and even those who have just started have said, look, my long-term goal is there. The investors want to be able to get a good return. However, the challenge for investors is look properly at companies before you invest. Yes, we want a successful IPO, but we want company investors to understand what they are getting into. Understand also that just like any other business, if they did it themselves, it takes time. Not to assume that immediately there is going to be that return on investment, but take time to understand the business, take time also to build a portfolio, not just one company if you're investing in the market, but look at a portfolio of investments. These are the things. And after you have invested in that business, take time to follow up on it, just as you do any other thing. You do your health, you do your education, take time to follow up, because you are now a part of this business like any other investor. Take time to go to the AGMs, take time also to ask the relevant questions. If you invest in the business, invest in it, meaning consider it your own.
This is powerful advice, Dr. Street Forrest, very powerful advice, because it speaks to some fundamentals: research, planning, actually planning for growth, looking at your options, keeping focused, and of course, follow-up, which are critical factors not only for investment, but for one's career and one's private and professional life. So we are taking the nuggets bit by bit as we talk this afternoon. So entrepreneurs and investors, take heed. Structure is important, and it's not because it may be a family-run business or a startup business means that you can just do it willy-nilly, so to speak. Structure will take you a long way, because the idea of business is to be successful in it. So we've gotten that message loud and clear. Your life thus far, as we've seen it, clearly demonstrates a passion for all of the things that you're involved in. And one of the elements we've seen here is volunteerism and community service. You're a proud member of the Rotary Club. Can you share with us some of the work you have done, and more so, the impact that the work has had on those that you have served?
So, I always speak about team. And for the Rotary Club, as you have mentioned, anything that is achieved is a team achievement. So as you have said, Rotary, it is service above self. And by being involved in that, any of the projects that the club is involved in, then the success of those projects is as a result of all the members of the club. I'm also involved in the Good Samaritan Inn, and that is an organization that looks at an outreach for the poor and the marginalized. And I sit on that board. And so it is also to look at how best we can ensure that the needs of the persons within that community are served. So these are some of the areas. And I'm also involved with the church. And as a woman in that ministry, again, just looking at those needs, it is important also just looking at that in terms of mentorship. So I provide mentorship for surprisingly more young men um, than young women. And again, it's just to ensure that they are on the right path, because many times persons just need guidance, just some guidance to ensure that they actualize.
You are so correct, and I love the language of actualization. I'm an avid tennis fan, and so I was very disheartened to hear of the fact that Serena Williams is retiring, because as from where I'm sitting, yes, she has done fantastic things. She is, in fact, the greatest that we have known. But deep in me, I see that that number 24 would be her point of actualizing. It's not just about the evolution, but that term, actualizing, and so many persons, even persons who society would regard as being very successful, that point of actualizing, so many of us are not at that point just yet, even though we may be successful in various spheres. You mentioned mentoring more young men than women. And we know in the region, sociologically, there is that we have come a long way. So we say that is given. But what do you think can or should be done to lay the framework for even more women to break the proverbial glass ceiling with respect to their respective passions?
Yes. I am going to take you back to my experience. Most of the areas of success that I've come across, it is because of men who decided that the intellect is there and they're in a position to assist. And so obviously, when we are talking about women getting or breaking that glass ceiling, we cannot leave men out of the equation. We tend to do that.
Agreed.
But we have to also speak with them, speak through them, because they are quote unquote still the keeper of that key. So we have to ensure that they understand us and help us to get beyond that barrier. Again, let us speak to women. Women also have to ensure that they help other women. Whilst you have reached that point, nurture other women to do so. Then let us speak to ourselves. We also have to become subject matter experts. I say that because I feel that that is the way I have been successful in terms of ensuring that what I have, you want and you need. So obviously, I go beyond the call of duty to ensure that I understand the matter. So the question that you would have asked about how you get into this area, I knew nothing about investments. I knew nothing really about stocks and bonds when I got that position. But I decided that I'm going to know everything about it. And I'm going to know everything about it in such a way that I am called on, or I can hold my own in a conversation. Women also have to determine that they must have that daring. They must speak up. Because so often in the boardroom, you may say something, a male says the same thing, and that person is heard. However, you must continue to make your voice heard. Speak about the subject, speak it loud and clear, and not be afraid of initially when you speak, you are not heard, but continue. You have to have that perseverance. You know, what we call luck is simply pluck when doing things over and over. Courage and will, perseverance, that underline, and skill are the four leaves of Lux Clover. It's not I did not coin it, but that is it. And I live by that, and I feel that other women should just persevere. There is also, obviously, we have to knock on the doors to see if policies, for example, with listed companies, because I am in that area, will move towards a diversity on the board, putting more women on the board, because it is obvious that statistics have shown that where there is diversity, there is growth, there is better than another company compared. So these are some of the things we have to also have that statistics to show, and continue to say good corporate governance would ensure that this is done. So there are so many ways in which government policies is another way. You know, some countries decide that they are going to regulate, women in terms of diversities. But there are so many ways that we can really push and move and break that glass ceiling. And I think we are doing some, but we can even move faster.
You have touched on some excellent points, hitting the key areas of preparation, policy, perseverance, so that we see a pattern emerging. I loved when you said, prepare yourself, become a subject matter expert, so that when you can stand your ground, you know, in a confident manner, and information that is solid in your sphere really inspires confidence. So thank you for that. We have seen, well, we're still in a pandemic, and we have seen the ripple effect of the pandemic within the region. What are some of your views on how, as a region, we can work together to successfully navigate this time of pandemic towards our collective recovery from its impact?
Okay, so what has happened is that you would have seen that the pandemic has gutted many small businesses.
Indeed, it has.
You would have seen also where, even though you have had other businesses that have emerged from the pandemic or were able to stay afloat from the pandemic, that they still require capital. Financing is key. Now, financing is key from within the region, but external to the region. And many of the time, the region is not seen by, many of the actors that can make capital flow in the region. It's not seen as a place that one can invest because it is too small. One of the things that I have always said is that we need collectively to have a single point, so to speak, in respect to capital formation. So if we have a regional exchange, not that individually you won't have, but if it is joined together in terms of how institutional investors overseas could see a part of entry and a part of exit, then it is that it will float all countries in terms of capital inflow, because we need that. We need that in order to help the small businesses thrive. We also need policy that will guide the small and medium size, and not loan, but equity. Yes, it is risky, and so most countries will say it's risky to invest. But what is going to happen if we don't invest in those smaller businesses? We will not survive. The other thing is education. I want to touch on that because at this point we need to be more focused in terms of what is the skill sets that we are developing for students, for persons who leave university or high school. And if we can have a region, because we have a regional body for CXCs, etc. But if we can have a regional concentration on what it should look like, what are the skill sets that will push us, because we all compete as small countries, but our deficiencies, we should look at our deficiencies in competing globally and see how we can work together to remedy those for the country and for external export.
I'm hearing very clearly, Dr. Street Forrest, strength in numbers supported by structure. So we make representation as a region, because this is how the world sees us. The world sees the region as one when they look at our numbers for investment. You know, they don't look at the 1.5, the 1.7 million. They look at the 14 million that encompasses the entire region. So we have to push that sort of collective growth for the greater benefit of all. This has really been insightful. And Dr. Street Forrest, as we close, what would you say have been the major influences on your life and the qualities that have contributed to your sterling success?
Well, I must say first, my parents, they were business people, and they insisted that we worked. It's not child labor, but they insisted that we worked. Then I must say that I have a higher power that I look towards in terms of leadership, and that is God. And I continue to be guided by the principles that were taught to me by my parents, and the principles, the godly principles. The other thing is team. You might have heard me speak to team. Always ensure that you have those persons around you who will work with you, you understand them, and they understand you. You cannot, no man is an island. You cannot do it alone. And I've learned that when you veer from that, it is to your own demise. So these are some of the things that have contributed to my success and that I would recommend to others.
Faith, family, among the qualities, team, surrounding yourself with persons who can inspire, persons who can give direction. You mentioned earlier, sometimes all someone needs is guidance. And more as we traverse this journey that we're blessed to be on, I recognize that there's sometimes someone only needs a word of encouragement to continue and to persevere. Yeah. Dr. Street Forrest, this has been inspiring. Your calm, structured approach to your responses that are they really give a knockout punch in terms of the information that you have shared with us today. We are certain that our listeners will be all the better for it. And we thank you for taking time from your very busy schedule to sit with us. Everyone, this has been Dr. Marlene Street Forrest, the Managing Director of the Jamaican Stock Exchange, but she's so much more than that. Thank you for viewing. I am Dionne Ligoure, the Head of Corporate Communications, and this has been another inspiring episode of Caribbean Connections. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our viewing audience. We'd love to get your feedback, so please send it to corpcom@caribbean-airlines.com. That email address, corpcom@caribbean-airlines.com. You may follow our social media channels, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at iFlyCaribbean. I am Dionne Ligoure, and this has been Caribbean Connections.